Captain Marcus Thorne watched the starlit void of space from the command deck of the USS Vanguard, the lead ship in a fleet patrolling the outer rim of human-controlled territory. His executive officer, Commander Rick Stanton, approached with a concerned look on his face. "Captain, we've detected an unidentified fleet entering the sector," Stanton reported, his voice tense. Thorne turned to face the main view screen. "On screen, let's see who dares to enter Terran space unannounced." The image flickered and then stabilized, revealing a massive armada bearing the insignia of the Crooksari, a race known for their advanced technology and aggressive expansionism. Thorne's brow furrowed. "Hail them, Commander." Stanton nodded and relayed the order. After a tense moment, the screen shifted to the face of a Crooksari admiral, his features sharp and menacing. "Human vessel, you encroach upon the sacred bounds of Crooksari dominion. Withdraw at once, or face annihilation," the Crooksari admiral demanded, his voice booming through the command deck. Thorne stood firm. "This is Captain Marcus Thorne of the United Terran Navy. These territories are under human jurisdiction per the Galactic Accords. We will not withdraw. I suggest you reconsider your position." The Crooksari admiral sneered. "We do not recognize your accords. This space is ours. We have tolerated your presence long enough." As the transmission ended abruptly, Thorne turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Prepare all units for a defensive formation. Commander Stanton, coordinate with the fleet. We're not backing down." Stanton acknowledged and began issuing orders. Meanwhile, Thorne opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Thorne to all ships. We are on the brink of an engagement with the Crooksari Armada. Our mission is to hold our ground and protect this sector. I expect every man and woman to perform their duties with courage." As the crew scrambled to their positions, Lieutenant Jack Harper, the tactical officer, reported, "All ships report ready, Captain. Defensive perimeters are set around the fleet." Thorne nodded. "Very well. Let's show the Crooksari that humans are not to be trifled with. Harper, keep an eye on their formation. I want to know the moment they make a move." "Yes, sir," Harper replied, his fingers flying over the controls as he monitored the advancing enemy ships. The Crooksari fleet moved swiftly into attack formation, their intentions clear. Thorne watched, calculating the odds and possible maneuvers. "Initiate evasive pattern Delta. Launch interceptors as soon as they come into range. We need to buy some time to assess their capabilities." The USS Vanguard shuddered slightly as the fleet executed the maneuver, interceptors streaking out into the void towards the Crooksari ships. "Direct hit on their forward shields," Harper exclaimed as the interceptors met their first target. "Good. Keep pressing them. They may have numbers, but we have superior tactics," Thorne said, his gaze locked on the battle unfolding before him. As the space around them lit up with the blaze of ship cannons and explosions, Commander Stanton stepped beside Thorne. "We're holding them off for now, Captain, but they're relentless. Should we consider calling for reinforcements?" Thorne considered the option, his mind racing through scenarios. "Not yet. Let's not show any sign of weakness. Prepare the main cannons and target their flagship. It's time to send a clear message." Stanton nodded and relayed the order. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the crew prepared for what might come next. "Fire when ready," Thorne commanded, his voice steady. The USS Vanguard's main cannons roared to life, sending a powerful volley towards the Crooksari flagship. The impact was immediate, rocking the enemy ship. "Direct hit, Captain. Their flagship is faltering," Harper reported with a hint of triumph. Thorne's lips curled into a grim smile. "Maintain fire. All ships focus on the flagship. We take down their leader, and we take down their will to fight." As the human fleet rallied around Thorne's command, unleashing their full might upon the Crooksari flagship, the first major battle between humanity and the Crooksari had truly begun. Whether this would be a victory or a costly lesson was yet to be seen. But one thing was certain. Captain Marcus Thorne and his crew were ready to defend humanity's claim to the stars. The aftermath of the first skirmish reverberated through the halls of the United Terran Navy's High Command. Captain Marcus Thorne, having held the line against the Crooksari Armada, was now tasked with a far graver challenge. Rigel Prime, a vital hub of human military might and industrial prowess, was next in line on the Crooksari's path of invasion. In the strategic briefing room aboard the USS Vanguard, Thorne met with his senior officers and special tactical advisors. Among them was Major Leo Franklin, a seasoned ground operations leader brought in to coordinate the planetary defenses. "Gentlemen, the Crooksari are moving fast," Thorne began, eyeing the holographic map displaying troop and fleet positions. "Rigel Prime is not just another colony, it's the backbone of our outer defenses. Losing it is not an option." Major Franklin nodded, his expression grave. The ground defenses are robust, but we'll need the fleet to keep their dropships at bay. My men can handle the ground assault, but only if they don't get overwhelmed from above. Commander Rick Stanton chimed in. Our latest scans show a buildup of Kruksari forces larger than what we encountered before. They're pushing hard. Thorne turned to Lieutenant Harper, who was responsible for tactical simulations. Lieutenant, what are our odds based on current projections? Harper didn't mince words. Tough, but not insurmountable. If we can disrupt their supply lines and take out their command ships early, it could give us the edge we need. Then that's what we'll do, Thorne decided swiftly. Prepare all squadrons for deployment. Major Franklin, coordinate with ground forces for a synchronized defense. We strike them hard and fast in space and on the ground. As the fleet approached Rigel Prime, the enormity of the task became clear. The planet, a jewel of human ingenuity and resolve, bristled with defense platforms and was already under siege. Explosions dotted the atmosphere as Kruksari forces attempted to penetrate the orbital defenses. Captain Thorne's fleet dove into the fray, interceptors and fighters weaving through the chaos. All units, this is Thorne. Focus on their heavy cruisers. Keep them off our stations and buy time for the ground forces. Major Franklin, on the ground, oversaw the deployment of troops and anti-aircraft batteries, his comms buzzing with updates. We're holding the eastern sectors, but we need more air support in the west, he reported through the comm link. Back in space, Commander Stanton directed part of the fleet to flank the Kruksari's vulnerable supply lines. Sir, we've got a window on their left flank. Permission to engage? Granted, Commander. Make it count, Thorne authorized, watching the tactical display as Stanton's group made a daring run on the enemy ships. The battle for Rigel Prime raged for hours, with neither side giving quarter. In the thick of it, Thorne remained a pillar of calm, directing ships, coordinating with ground forces, and adjusting strategies in real time. Finally, the turning point came when Lieutenant Harper's team managed to disable the Kruksari flagship's main reactor with a precision strike. Flagship's power levels are dropping. Press the attack, Thorne ordered, sensing the shift in momentum. All units, full assault on the flagship. Ground forces, push back the invaders. This is our moment. With the flagship crippled, the Kruksari fleet's coordination faltered. Capitalizing on the confusion, human forces surged, repelling the Kruksari both in space and on the surface. As the last of the enemy ships retreated, Thorne allowed himself a brief sigh of relief. Rigel Prime was battered but held firm. He glanced at the reports coming in. Casualties, damages, but ultimately, a victory, hard-earned and costly. Report our status to command, Thorne instructed Stanton. Tell them Rigel Prime stands secure. As the dust settled, Thorne knew this was but an opening gambit in what would be a prolonged conflict. But for now, Rigel Prime was safe, and humanity's resolve had been tested and proven. The war was far from over, but they were ready for whatever came next. After the hard-fought victory at Rigel Prime, Captain Marcus Thorne was urgently summoned back to Earth for a new assignment. This mission was of a different nature. Intelligence gathered from the skirmishes indicated a potential vulnerability within the Kruksari's seemingly impregnable technology. The stakes were high, and the operation required utmost secrecy. Upon arrival at the United Terran Navy's headquarters, Thorne was briefed by Admiral Hayes, the fleet's strategic commander. Marcus, we've intercepted Kruksari communications that suggest a critical flaw in their shield technology. We need to confirm this and exploit it before they patch it up. Thorne nodded, understanding the gravity of the task. What's the plan, sir? We're assembling a small team for a covert operation. You will lead this team to infiltrate a Kruksari outpost on Tyrone 5. It's lightly guarded but holds the information we need. Dr. Elena Ross, an expert in alien technology, will accompany you. She believes she can extract and analyze any data you find. Dr. Ross, a young but brilliant scientist, was already waiting in the briefing room. She extended her hand to Thorne. Captain, it's an honor. I've followed your exploits at Rigel Prime. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to make this mission a success. Thorne appreciated her determination. Welcome aboard, Dr. Ross. Your expertise will be crucial. The final member of the team was Lieutenant James Walker, a skilled reconnaissance officer with experience in stealth operations. Walker's calm demeanor was reassuring. Captain, we've got your back. I've prepped our gear for silent entry and quick extraction. Within hours, the team was en route to Tyrone 5 aboard a stealth shuttle, modified for minimal sensor footprint. As they approached the outpost, the dim red light of the Tyrone star cast eerie shadows over their faces. Thorne briefed his team one last time. Stay sharp, everyone. We get in, we get the data, we get out. No heroics. We do this by the book. The outpost was more fortified than expected, nestled in a rugged valley crisscrossed with patrols. Walker led the way, expertly guiding the team past sensors and sentries using a mix of technology and terrain. Inside, they reached the central hub where the data was stored. Dr. Ross set to work immediately, interfacing her equipment with the alien console. This technology is generations ahead of ours, but there's a rhythm to it. I think I've found the access sequence. As she worked, Thorne and Walker kept watch. Tension filled the air, every passing second increasing the risk of detection. Suddenly, alarms blared. They're onto us, Walker announced, checking the corridors for incoming Cruxari. We've got what we came for, Ross exclaimed, disconnecting her device. Let's move. The escape was chaotic. They dodged patrols and returned fire, barely making it back to the shuttle as Cruxari forces converged on them. The shuttle lifted off, cloaking engaged, and they slipped away just as a Cruxari destroyer entered orbit. Back on Earth, the data was analyzed. It confirmed a specific frequency could disrupt the Cruxari shields temporarily. This is it, Thorne said, looking at Ross and Walker. This could turn the tide. Admiral Hayes was pleased, yet cautious. Well done, Captain. Prepare for a briefing with the Joint Chiefs. We need to act on this intelligence swiftly and decisively. As they left the intelligence center, Thorne felt the weight of the upcoming battles. They had a new weapon, but so much depended on how they chose to use it. The war was far from over, but hope was on their side. With the vital intelligence secured from Tyron Fev, Captain Marcus Thorne's optimism was short-lived. The Cruxari, sensing a shift in the tides of war, escalated their assaults with ruthless precision. Their next move was a series of devastating strikes on key human colonies, aiming to break the spirit of humanity and reclaim the momentum. In the strategy room aboard the USS Vanguard, now stationed near the colony of New Haven, Thorne and his senior staff analyzed the disturbing pattern of attacks. The room buzzed with urgent communications and data streams showing the Cruxari pushing deeper into human territories. Commander Rick Stanton voiced the urgency of their situation. Captain, the Cruxari are hitting us hard and fast. New Haven, Fortuna, and now reports coming in from Veritas Colony. They're not just probing defenses anymore. They're aiming to cripple us. Thorne's jaw tightened as he studied the map. They want to shake our confidence before we can use our new advantage. We won't let that happen. Prepare to dispatch our rapid response fleets. I want evacuations coordinated and our defenses shored up at every targeted colony. Lieutenant Harper, always close with tactical updates, pointed out a concerning trend. Sir, the Cruxari forces are using a new type of bomber. It's faster and more resilient than what we've seen before. Our standard AA batteries are struggling to keep up. Dr. Elena Ross, who had been working non-stop on adapting the shield-disrupting technology, chimed in with a timely update. I've adjusted the frequency modulator to interfere with their bomber navigation systems. It's experimental, but might give us the edge we need in these attacks. Thorne nodded approvingly. Implement it. Harper, get those modulators to every colony on the hit list. I want them operational within the hour. As the Vanguard and its fleet made their way to New Haven, the space around the colony was alight with the glow of burning ships and the stark flashes of artillery fire. The Cruxari were laying siege, their ships methodically pounding the colony's shields. Arriving just in time, Thorne issued his commands with a calm urgency. All ships, deploy defensive formations. Protect the colony. Ground teams, prepare for close-quarter defense. We push them back here. The battle for New Haven was fierce. Thorne's fleet, enhanced with the new modulators, managed to disrupt several waves of Cruxari bombers, buying precious time for the ground forces. Major Franklin, coordinating the defense on the surface, led his troops with valor, repelling Cruxari ground forces trying to breach the colony's defenses. In the thick of the battle, a critical moment arrived as Thorne directed the Vanguard to intercept a Cruxari dreadnought bearing down on the colony. Full power to forward shields. Target their engines and weapons array. Let's give them a warm welcome. The confrontation was brutal. The Vanguard shuddered under the impact of Cruxari fire, but its return volley was devastating, crippling the dreadnought and forcing the Cruxari fleet to regroup. As the smoke cleared, the human forces had held their ground, but the cost was evident in the debris field orbiting New Haven and the exhausted faces of its defenders. In the aftermath, Thorne met with his officers and Dr. Ross in the command center, now scarred by battle. We held them off, but they'll be back. We need to keep improving our defenses and our tech. This war just escalated, and we have to rise with it. Commander Stanton, looking over the casualty reports, added solemnly, "They're testing our resolve, Captain. But each time they come at us, we learn more, we adapt faster. They won't find us easy prey." Thorne gazed out at the stars, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. "We'll make them regret ever starting this war. For every life lost today, we'll save 1,000 more. This I vow." The crew, galvanized by Thorne's determination, set about their tasks, knowing that the next challenge was just beyond the horizon. They were down, but far from out, and the fight for humanity's place in the galaxy was just getting started. The war between humanity and the Cruxari escalated to new heights as Captain Marcus Thorne prepared his fleet for what would be one of the largest battles in human history, the Battle of Alpha Centauri. This system was not only a strategic crossroads, but also a symbol of human achievement, making it a crucial point of defense against the advancing Cruxari forces. In the command center of the USS Vanguard, Captain Thorne convened a critical meeting with his top officers and tactical advisors. The room was tense, the air thick with anticipation and the grave responsibility they all shared. "Listen up," Thorne started, his voice firm and commanding. "The Cruxari are mobilizing a significant force aimed directly at Alpha Centauri. This isn't just another skirmish, it's an all-out assault. We stop them here, or we risk losing critical ground." Lieutenant Harper, now promoted to commander, presented the tactical overview. "We've spotted multiple Cruxari dreadnoughts and support vessels. They outnumber us, but our intel on their shield frequencies should give us the upper hand." Dr. Elena Ross, who had been working tirelessly on adapting human technology to counter the Cruxari, added, "The shield disruptors are ready for deployment. We've fine-tuned them to the frequencies we captured from Tyrone V. It's going to give our weapons a clear shot every time their shields flicker." Captain Thorne nodded at Dr. Ross, appreciating her crucial contributions. "Excellent work, Dr. Ross. Now let's talk strategy. We'll use the disruptors to break their lines. Commander Stanton, your squadron will flank their left wing where they're weakest. Harper, lead the main assault. Hit them hard and fast." As the fleet maneuvered into position near Alpha Centauri, the Cruxari armada came into view, a vast sea of ships that blotted out the stars. The magnitude of the battle they were about to engage in weighed heavily on everyone's minds. The first volleys of the battle were intense, with both sides unleashing powerful barrages. The Cruxari, confident in their numerical superiority, pushed forward aggressively. However, their arrogance was met with the ingenuity of human technology and strategy. "Activate the disruptors now," Thorne commanded, his eyes glued to the tactical displays. The effect was instantaneous. As the disruptors kicked in, patches of the Cruxari fleet found their shields flickering and failing. Human fighters and bombers exploited these gaps, delivering crippling blows to the Cruxari ships. "Look at that! They're faltering!" exclaimed Commander Harper as he watched a Cruxari dreadnought reel from a direct hit. Captain Thorne seized the moment. "All units, concentrate fire on their command ship. Without their leader, their formation will break." The battle raged for hours, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The space around Alpha Centauri was littered with debris and the remnants of ships that had fallen. Yet, the human forces, driven by a desperate resolve to protect their home, continued to push the Cruxari back. In a daring move, Thorne ordered his ship closer to the Cruxari command vessel. "Prepare for a full frontal assault. Target their main reactor." The final confrontation was a dramatic climax to the fierce battle. With precise maneuvers and coordinated attacks, the Vanguard unleashed a devastating barrage that breached the Cruxari command ship's defenses, hitting its reactor. As the Cruxari command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the remaining Cruxari forces, now leaderless and chaotic, began to retreat. The Battle of Alpha Centauri, though costly, was a decisive victory for humanity. Back aboard the Vanguard, Captain Thorne allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. "We did it. We held them off." Commander Stanton, looking out at the recovering fleet, replied, "Yes, sir, but this war is far from over." Thorne nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars. "True. But today we've shown the Cruxari that humanity will not bow down. We will fight for every inch of our territory, for every soul under our protection. Let's get to work on repairs. We need to be ready for what comes next." In the wake of the decisive victory at Alpha Centauri, human morale soared. Yet Captain Marcus Thorne knew that to end the war, They needed to strike at the heart of the Kruxari Empire. Plans for an audacious assault on the Kruxari homeworld began to take shape, a mission that would either secure peace or plunge humanity into peril. The briefing room aboard the USS Vanguard was tense as Thorne laid out the operation's blueprint. With him were Commander Rick Stanton, now his trusted second-in-command, and Dr. Elena Ross, whose technological innovations had become crucial to their strategy. "Listen closely," Thorne began, his tone serious. "We have one shot at ending this conflict. A direct assault on the Kruxari homeworld could force their leadership to sue for peace. It's a high-risk maneuver, but the intel from Alpha Centauri gave us the opening we need." Dr. Ross interjected, "We've managed to adapt the shield disruptors into a single-use, high-powered burst device. Deployed correctly, it could temporarily cripple their planetary defenses." Commander Stanton, ever the tactician, pointed out the key challenges. "The Kruxari will expect us to capitalize on our recent victory. We should anticipate heavy resistance, not just from their fleet, but also from surface-to-air defenses." Thorne nodded, absorbing the details. "We'll need to coordinate a multi-pronged attack. Space units will engage their fleet, while special ops will deploy to the surface to disable their defense grid manually. It's risky, but it's the only way to give our forces a fighting chance." The journey to the Kruxari homeworld was fraught with tension. The fleet, battle-scarred but unbroken, moved through hyperspace, each member aware of the battle's high stakes. Upon arrival, they were met with the sight of a heavily fortified planet, its defenses bristling with anticipation. The battle commenced with a fierce exchange of fire. The Vanguard led the charge, its guns blazing as they approached the Kruxari defenses. Thorne, at the helm, directed the fleet with a calm ferocity, orchestrating the attack with precision. "Now, deploy the burst disruptor," Thorne ordered at the crucial moment. Dr. Ross activated the device, sending a pulse of energy that rippled through space, briefly disabling the Kruxari shields. In that moment of vulnerability, human fighters swept through, targeting key defense installations. Meanwhile, on the surface, a special ops team led by Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Jensen made their perilous way towards the primary defense control hub. The team, moving stealthily through enemy territory, faced intense ground combat. Their mission was to plant a series of explosive charges that would cripple the planetary defenses long enough for the main fleet to establish orbital superiority. Back in orbit, Thorne watched anxiously as reports of the ground team's progress came in. "Status report on the ops team," he demanded. "They've reached the objective and are setting the charges now," reported a communications officer. As the charges detonated, a wave of relief passed through the fleet. The Kruxari planetary defenses faltered, allowing the human ships to dominate the skies. With the defenses compromised, the Kruxari leadership was forced into a vulnerable position. Thorne seized the opportunity to initiate peace talks, broadcasting an open channel to the Kruxari commanders. "This war can end now," Thorne declared, his voice resolute. "We have demonstrated our capabilities and our resolve. Let us conclude this conflict with honor, or continue to face the consequences." After tense negotiations, the Kruxari agreed to a ceasefire, their resolve broken by the boldness of the human attack and the prospect of continued devastation. As Thorne and his crew celebrated their hard-fought victory, he reflected on the cost and the gains. "We've secured peace for now, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy is a vast place, filled with unknowns." Commander Stanton joined him at the viewport, looking out at the quiet planet below. "A hard-won peace, Captain, but worth it." Thorne nodded, feeling the weight of command lighten slightly. "Yes, worth it. Let's get our people home. It's time to rebuild and prepare for whatever comes next." With a ceasefire in place, Captain Marcus Thorne knew that the true challenge was ensuring that peace would last. The hard-earned victory needed to be capitalized upon to secure a lasting resolution. The final plan involved dismantling the Kruxari's ability to wage war, ensuring they would no longer pose a threat to humanity or any other civilization. Back on Earth, in the war room filled with military leaders and strategic advisors, Thorne laid out his vision for the final phase of their campaign. "We've brought the Kruxari to the negotiating table, but we need to ensure they can't back out and return to their old ways. We must dismantle their war-making capabilities permanently," he declared firmly. Dr. Elena Ross, who had been instrumental throughout the conflict, added, "Our analysis of the Kruxari technology suggests that without their central command infrastructure, their ability to coordinate large-scale offensives will be severely crippled. We have a window to disable their war factories and shipyards." Commander Rick Stanton, looking over the maps and strategic plans, pointed to several key locations. These are their main industrial hubs. If we strike these, we cripple their ability to rebuild their fleet. It's a surgical strike, quick and decisive. Thorne nodded in agreement. Prepare the fleet. We'll need every ship ready for a synchronized assault. This operation ends the war on our terms. The fleet set out once again, this time with the specific mission of crippling the Kruxari's military-industrial complex. As they approached the Kruxari homeworld, they were met not with the fierce resistance they expected, but with a disorganized and demoralized defense. Thorne, aboard the USS Vanguard, led the charge. All units, focus on your primary targets. Use maximum discretion to minimize civilian impact. We're here to end their war potential, not their lives. As the fleet bombarded the Kruxari shipyards and factories with precise, targeted strikes, Thorne watched the destruction unfold, aware of the gravity of each explosion. It was not just the destruction of property, but the dismantling of the Kruxari threat. On the ground, special ops teams, including one led by the capable Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Jensen, sabotaged key infrastructure, ensuring no quick recovery would be possible. Jensen reported in, her voice steady over the comm. Objective secured. Charges set and ready to blow on your command, sir. Execute on my mark. Now, Thorne ordered. The charges detonated, sending shockwaves through the Kruxari military capabilities. The simultaneous strikes were devastatingly effective, leaving the Kruxari without the means to pose a significant threat for years, perhaps decades. In the aftermath, Thorne opened communications for peace talks. The Kruxari leadership, now fully aware of their precarious position, agreed to terms that included disarmament and war reparations. The treaty was harsh but fair, ensuring a balance of power that favored a peaceful coexistence. The signing of the treaty was a solemn affair. Thorne, representing Earth, signed the documents with a heavy but hopeful heart. Let this be a lesson in the futility of war and the value of peace, he addressed the assembly. Returning to the Vanguard, Thorne felt a mix of relief and weariness. The war was over, and peace had been his ultimate mission. Yet the galaxy was vast and full of unknowns. He knew this peace was just the beginning of a new chapter. Commander Stanton joined him as they looked out into space. You think they'll hold to the treaty, Captain? Thorne considered the stars. They will. They have to. We've ensured they can't easily rebuild their military. Now, our focus must shift to rebuilding what was lost and helping those affected by this war. As the Vanguard set course back to Earth, the crew felt the weight of their accomplishments. They had faced a formidable enemy, endured loss, and now emerged victorious, ready to face new challenges in a hopefully quieter galaxy. With the Kruxari war machinery dismantled and a stringent peace treaty in place, Captain Marcus Thorne looked forward to a period of rebuilding and reflection. The USS Vanguard, battle-worn but resilient, charted its course back to Earth, carrying a crew eager to return to their loved ones and a captain pondering the future. Upon arrival, the atmosphere was electric. Humanity had come out of the shadow of war stronger and more united than ever. Celebrations erupted across the globe, not just for the victory, but for the peace that followed. Marcus Thorne, hailed as a hero, felt the weight of his new status, a symbol of human strength and diplomatic prowess. In the aftermath of the celebrations, Thorne was invited to speak at the United Nations, where leaders from around the world gathered to discuss the implications of the war and the path forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Thorne began, his voice echoing in the Grand Assembly Hall, we have faced a grave challenge, a threat that pushed us to the limits of our resolve and capability. We emerged victorious not merely because of our military might, but because of our unyielding commitment to the survival and prosperity of our species. He paused, looking around at the gathered leaders. But let us not forget the cost at which this peace was bought. Let us remember those who sacrificed their lives so that we may stand here today. And let us ensure that their sacrifice was not in vain. Thorne's speech was met with applause, a shared recognition of the hard lessons learned. In the days that followed, he worked closely with global leaders to establish a new defense initiative designed not only to protect Earth, but also to aid in the recovery and rebuilding of the colonies affected by the war. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Ross took charge of a new division focused on integrating and advancing the technology salvaged from the Kruxari, ensuring that humanity would be better prepared for any future threats. Commander Rick Stanton, now promoted to Admiral, oversaw the restructuring of the space fleet, turning it into a beacon of galactic peacekeeping and exploration. As the reconstruction efforts gained momentum, Thorne found himself at a crossroads. His role in the war had defined him, but the peace might redefine him. Reflecting on his journey, he decided to pen a memoir, capturing the essence of their struggles and triumphs, a testament to human spirit and ingenuity. One evening, as he gazed out at the serene vista from his home on the coast, Thorne contemplated the future. Humanity had not only secured its place in the galaxy, but had also set a precedent for handling interstellar conflicts with a combination of might and diplomacy. The door behind him opened, and there stood a group of young naval officers, the next generation, eager to learn from his experiences. Thorne turned to greet them, ready to pass on the lessons he had learned. "Welcome," he said with a warm smile. "Let's talk about the future you will shape. The galaxy is vast, and our journey is far from over." As they gathered around, eager to absorb every word, Thorne felt a profound sense of purpose. He realized that while his chapter might be drawing to a close, the story of humanity was just beginning a new chapter, one filled with hope, exploration, and the eternal pursuit of peace.